Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video in the day across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, October 29, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any other related question that you might have about the future of the day in your specific area. Alright, so let's just take a look at what the United States National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that that area that had a high chance of development, a 70% chance this morning across the southwest Atlantic, now has a 40% chance. So I guess it has been fluctuating in intensity that has caused the Hurricane Center to lower the chances of this happening. We can also see that we still have that area across the Caribbean for possible tropical cyclone development within the next 7 days. According to the Hurricane Center, it states a broad area flow pressure could form in a few days over the central or southwestern Caribbean Sea. Environmental conditions appear conducive for some gradual development thereafter, while the system moves generally westward at 10 to 15 miles per hour towards Central America. And if you guys can remember past hurricanes, especially in 2020 when we had numerous hurricanes passing to the south of Jamaica, we still had some amount of moisture from the outer bands of these systems. So even if this system passes to the south of us, we should still be getting in on some amount of rainfall. Alright, so let's just take a look at the computer models from the Euro. We see the Euro is showing a lot of greens that represent moisture. What time is this? This is 00 on Friday, and when we calculate that, that's about 7 p.m. on a Thursday. We see a contour line, a circle around the L that represents the broad area flow pressure, and it should be directly to the south of Jamaica with all of its moisture surrounding it, bringing some amount of rainfall to Jamaica by the end of the day on a Thursday. What does the GFS model show on the 18C run? We can see that yes, we have a lot of contour lines that represent that broad area flow pressure, but we don't see the L south of Jamaica. We see differences, we see contrast. We see that area flow pressure a bit stronger with some tighter circles, even some yellows and reds that indicate some intense rainfall as indicated by the key on the right. Below Haiti, right there to the south of Haiti. So we see the differences in terms of where the system will be valid for Friday 0Z, Thursday evening. And we usually look for consensus. We usually look for both of these maps to show the same thing. And we're still in a bit of a disagreement. We just have to get closer in time to around that time period before we can, narrow down on what exactly will unfold. So that's why we have to stay updated to see exactly what happens, because we see this right now. Tomorrow we might see another thing on the models. This is why we have to take the model forecast with a grain of salt, because it's not all set in stone. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. You can see that we still have a high pressure ridge across the Atlantic, sending all of the trade winds across the main development region in the Caribbean. We can also see two broad areas of low pressure and a trough embedded in there, right there across the waters to the north of Hispaniola, and another area of low pressure right there to the south of Jamaica. And even if we take a look at the wind forecast for later, we can even see the spin associated with those areas of low pressure. So we can see it right now. We can see the air circulating around in the southern Caribbean to the south of Jamaica. That's an air flow pressure, and we have that anti-clockwise spin. And we can also see the other area of spin to the north of Hispaniola, definitely showing what we're seeing right now on the surface map. And it is this area of low pressure, broad area of low pressure, that's going to be responsible for bringing some amount of rainfall to sections of especially eastern Jamaica and even northern Jamaica on Monday. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see the spin associated with that area of low pressure to the north of Hispaniola, associated with that area that the hurricane center is watching. And we can also see some clouds associated with that other area of low pressure right there, affecting portions of Haiti right now with some amount of clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. And we can even see it better on the rainbow loop right here. Lots of colors that represent one amount of thunderstorm activity coming into Haiti. Some of this could spill into sections of Jamaica as we head into Monday, especially eastern Jamaica. Alright, so we will be talking more about the weather across the Caribbean later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for Sunday. It was stated that we would have received some amount of afternoon rainfall across sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica on Sunday afternoon. And we know northern parishes, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. And what ended up happening? At 3:26 p.m. a post was made on our Twitter page. Not only our Twitter page, but our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok page. So if you have one of those platforms, please ensure that you follow us so that you don't miss our mini posts. So we can see that we indeed had some amount of cloud bringing overcast skies and some isolated showers to sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica, as well as some inland areas of some southern parishes as well, but it was mainly confined to sections of the north. And we can even see it better right now on the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down. Definitely gotten on some amount of isolated showers, even sections of eastern St. Andrew, northern St. Andrew, northern St. Catherine, northern St. Elizabeth, and northern Manchester gotten on some amount of overcast skies and rainfall. The infrared satellite images didn't show much in the way of high cold cloud tops, but we did see some of that across the north quickly being blown off towards the waters to the north of the island. We didn't have much in the way of thunderstorm activity at all, but definitely some amount of isolated showers across the various spots that were predicted to have it northern parishes. And we don't see much happening right now, just some high level clouds coming in from that broad area of low pressure that's bringing some amount of rainfall to section of Haiti at this time. As it relates to the Cuban Doppler radar images, we can see some of that rainfall right there to the east of the island of Jamaica, not to mention some of that rainfall still exiting northern Jamaica, so sections of the waters to the north of St. Anne and Trelawney could still be getting in on some amount of rainfall right now. And if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours by the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, we see where we indeed had that rainfall across sections of the island. So definitely inland areas of some southern parishes, so northern portions of some southern parishes, as well as especially northern parishes in Jamaica, just as predicted. Alright, so let's just take a look at the temperatures right now. We can see we have 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by 3 a.m. on a Monday the temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for Monday, this map is showing 18 on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday. And what do we see? Jamaica embedded in some amount of yellows and slight orange colors that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, as we can see by the key on the right. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of October in Jamaica is about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we take a look at the thermometer, 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 31 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31 to 33 degrees Celsius for our temperatures for Monday. As it relates to the dry air map, we see some of the forecasters on YouTube showing this map for the Saharan dust forecast. It is not the Saharan dust forecast at all. It's definitely the dry air map, because we don't have Saharan dust right now across the Gulf of Mexico or off the east coast of the United States. All of this is a dry, stable air that's keeping moisture at bay, and we can see that we don't have much in the way of clouds where the air is dry. We see all of the cloud cover mainly across the areas where we see the blues. Once we're able to see the blues, that's definitely a lot of moist air, and we see a lot of moist air surrounding Jamaica. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, we can see that 2 p.m. on Monday has some of that Saharan dust starting to make its way across the main development region into sections of the Leeward Islands right there across the northeastern Caribbean. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see a lot of light blue colors surrounding the island of Jamaica, and when we take a look at the key at the bottom right, that's indicative of at least 0 to 0.5 meter wave height, and that's due to the fact that the winds are not going to be that strong at all across the island for Monday. We can see on the eastern side of the island, to the waters to the east of the island, we see that flow coming in from the southeast associated with that airflow pressure. Look at the flow across the rest of the island, coming in from the north on the north coast, coming in from the west on the western portion of the island, coming in from the southwest or the south across the southern portion of the island. So this looks more like some variable winds. Winds are coming in from all directions, and then we can see that air piling up where we have those darker shades of blues. That's where we are going to be having the least amount of winds. That's where we're going to be having the cumulus clouds becoming cumulonimbus clouds, or something similar to what happened today, just some isolated clouds that bringing some amount of rainfall. So we could get some more of that. And with the upper level wind shear coming in from the southeast for tomorrow, that's definitely going to be favoring more of that afternoon convection still across sections of northern Jamaica, so Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anna, St. Mary, Portland. However, considering that we have that airflow pressure as seen on the surface map, broad airflow pressure, some of that rainfall coming in, or some of that wind coming in from the southeast associated with that airflow pressure, could definitely bring about some amount of rainfall, some of this rainfall that Haiti is getting right now, which makes sense. When we take a look at the precipitation forecast, we see some amount of rainfall off to the east of the island. Look at all of that blue and green that represent rainfall. So definitely sections of Portland, St. Thomas, maybe spilling into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew. You can also see some blues across sections of St. Anna right there. And this is valid for 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 12 p.m. Jamaica time on Monday. This is the GFS. Look at the Euromodel. The Euromodel is a bit more robust, showing more blues and even greens, yellows and oranges that represent more in the way of rainfall across sections of central and western Jamaica. But what we're looking for is consensus. And we do see the consensus across sections of eastern Jamaica, especially the waters to the east of the island. So definitely we're going to be getting in on some rainfall across the east and the north as well. Skipping ahead to about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. Much of the same sections of eastern Jamaica spilling into sections of maybe sections of some central parishes in Jamaica. Not so much the west, we don't see that across the GFS model, just eastern and central parishes, and we can't rule out most of that affecting sections of northern Jamaica with that upper level wind shear. Alright, so let's just take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast. Keep in mind that both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on a Monday. And we're not saying that it's going to be raining all the way up until then. This map just goes out up until that point. And this is the rainfall total by the Euro model. Definitely a section of the east, southeast of the island. Look at that, 0.54 of an inch of rainfall across sections of St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew. Northern Jamaica, 0.65 of an inch of rainfall. What does the GFS show? A bit less in terms of the rainfall totals. Only up to 0.38 for the most part on the north coast. Well, the eastern portion of the island are going to be getting in on 0.61 of an inch of rainfall. We kind of see the consensus in the where. So definitely east and northern portion of the island. But in terms of the rainfall totals, the Euro model is a bit more robust in terms of that. Either way, we're indeed grateful that we're going to be receiving some amount of rainfall across the island for Monday. We're in our primary rainy season. In October, we usually get the most rainfall across the island of Jamaica. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we head into the drier months of December to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we indeed have some amount of clouds still bring some amount of rainfall to sections of the Windward Islands. So definitely St. Vincent to the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, sections of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, sections of El Salvador, Guatemala as usual. Central America getting in on a lot of activity. We can also see some of that rainfall associated with that airflow pressure spilling into sections of the Bahamas, southern Florida, section of Cuba as well. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean right now, let's see what's happening. We can see that right now we have some amount of rainfall right there to the west of Barbados. So definitely a section of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Martinique getting in on some amount of rainfall. We can see some hit or miss showers taking place across sections of Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, maybe St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis. Definitely the US and British Virgin Islands getting in on some amount of rainfall or soon to get in on some of that. And definitely sections of Puerto Rico got in on some amount of rainfall for today. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we can see that we don't have much happening across Barbados right now. Majority of the rainfall is right there off to the south and west of the island, affecting sections of Tobago and headed straight for the Grenadine Islands and the St. Vincent, not to mention Grenada. You can also see some of this rainfall off to the east of Trinidad. They're definitely going to be getting on some wet weather later on tonight. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall across sections of northern or northwestern Venezuela. You can also see that isolated rainfall right there across sections of the western tip of Cuba, Belize, northern Guatemala and Honduras as well. And we know Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall as opposed to satellite images, and we can see clouds over an area, not necessarily rainfall, so the Doppler radars are a much welcomed sight. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow across the Caribbean, look at those tremendous below average temperatures across the central United States, while the eastern portion of the United States are experiencing way above normal temperatures, while the entire Caribbean, even the Gulf of Mexico, should be getting in on some slight above normal temperatures for the most part. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, as stated earlier, majority of this dust should be dwindling by the time it gets to the Caribbean. Only sections of the Leeward Islands should be getting on some slight brown shades that indicate the lower scale of Saharan dust. As it relates to the wave forecast, we can see that it's only the eastern Caribbean that's going to be getting in on that 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, as indicated by those darker blue colors, as indicated by the key on the bottom red, while it's the central and western Caribbean that should be getting in on the low waves, considering the lighter shades of blues that represent anywhere from the 0 to 0.5 meter wave heights. And we see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls, due to the fact that the winds are going to be strongest across those spots where the waves are highest, which makes more sense. So section of the Gulf of Mexico, wherever we have that airflow pressure across the southwestern Atlantic, section of the eastern Caribbean, not so much across the central and western Caribbean at all, only averaging, let's say, 5 to 10 knots at most, while the eastern Caribbean averaging 15 to 20 knots there. As it relates to the rainfall forecast, look at these totals. Keep in mind that both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday, and we're not saying that it's going to be raining from now all the way up until then, but from now up until that time period, this is the amount of rainfall that's expected. We do see more in the way of isolated showers for sections of the Bahamas, sections of Cuba, maybe spilling into sections of the Cayman Islands and the Yucatan Peninsula. But we see consensus that it's definitely going to be raining across eastern Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Leeward and Windward Islands for sure. So more rainfall for the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, St. Kitts, Antigua, Anguilla, sections of Guadeloupe, Martinique, Dominica, sections of St. Vincent, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago. Even the southern portion of the basin are definitely going to be getting in on that rainfall. Not so much Suriname or French Guyana, but definitely sections of northern Guyana should be getting in on some slight rainfall. Definitely sections of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, definitely western Nicaragua is going to be getting in on some tremendous rainfall, as seen by those purple colors, even some grays in there. Tremendous rainfall that's going to be triggering some amount of flash flooding there, associated with that airflow pressure that the Hurricane Center has been watching in the eastern Pacific. We can also see Honduras, El Salvador, sections of Guatemala as well, getting in on some amount of rainfall, not to mention sections of southern Belize. I know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing something similar like this, the chance of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.